asked him. She hadn't asked him, he just was there. And so this spirit, the anointing fell on us, and then he disappeared. We walked on, and she said, I wanted to ask, and he was right back again in front of us, and he answered the question, and then just disappeared. And so we were drunk. We were so drunk with the presence of God, we had to sit down.
And for those that don't understand being drunk with the presence of God, read the book of Acts, and you'll find out they accused them of drinking wine because they were so happy and so giddy. I mean, why is it so bad to be so happy? Is sadness so wonderful? I mean, if I had a choice between sadness and happiness, it'd be a no contest, it'd be a no-brainer. Kathie, tell me about the time...
Sorry.
Okay, behave. Tell me about the time you were translated to Israel. That was such a phenomenal story in the mosque.
Okay, I was at a prayer meeting, and the Lord told me to go to the next room, so I did. And it's like this beam of light shot out of heaven, like that. And the next minute I knew I was standing in Israel, in Jerusalem, and there was an angel there, and Jesus was there. And we began to walk down the streets of the old city. But suddenly we turned, and I found myself at the back of the mosque. And I was like, whoa, because I've always been careful to avoid the mosque. But we sat at the back, and I saw Jesus walk. He said, wait here. And he walked down. There were some men praying, on the mats. And he touched about 4 of them on his shoulder. He walked back to me, and he said, these men are going to be saved because they're seeking for me. Then we went out of the mosque, and we walked down the street. He began to tell me about different people in the street. There was an old couple with a bread cart, and he told me they're having financial problems, and their neighbours are going to help them, and kept telling me about different people. He told me we saw a beautiful young Jewish girl, and Jesus told me her husband, her fiance, is seeking for me. He's going to find me. And then we walked to the end near the Via Dolorosa, and he said, you have to go now. And I said, oh no, I'll stay. And he said, no, you have to go now, because I'm going to visit the prayer meeting in the convents. And the next minute I was back in this lady's house in Florida. And of course, when the anointings come on you strong like that, I call it being frozen in the spirit, but then you can't move, sometimes for like an hour.
Now, many times angels will protect you. Tell me about the time the angel was steering your steering wheel in the car.
I was driving from Georgia down to Orlando, and we got around the Ocala area, and there was a tremendous, terrible storm that hit. I mean, really, really bad, and you couldn't see. And also the road was up. So one side the car's up, and the other side the car's down, and there's all these red bollard things, and I just couldn't see. And the cars were like bumper to bumper, and all of a sudden I felt someone give me a dig here, and then suddenly took the steering wheel and turned the car this way. And I thought, what is going on? But then I realized one of those red things had fallen in front of me. But if I had just seen it, I would have just slammed my foot on the brake, and because everyone behind me
you would have had a horrific accident.
So, and then he just swung it back, and I guess the person behind me did. And then for the next 2 hours through that storm, till I got to Orlando, I didn't steer the car at all through that storm. I literally had my little finger on the steering wheel like this, and he drove it all through. And then when we got just outside Orlando, he just went like that, gave me the steering wheel back.
We'll be back in a moment, and you'll find out that an angel of change was in Kathie's house for 3.5 weeks. Everyone that came to her house got major change in direction in their life. Be right back.
We'll be right back to It's Supernatural.
When Jesus prayed that they all may be one, there were only 2 people groups, Jews and Gentiles. Denominations did not exist. 2,000 years later, his prayer is still yet to be fulfilled. God's purpose from the beginning was for all nations to become one in Yeshua, Messiah Jesus. to break down the middle wall of separation dividing Jew and Gentile, so that the world may believe that Yeshua is the Messiah and Lord over all. When Jewish spiritual DNA merges with the New Covenant Christian DNA, there will be what Paul called life from the dead. That's why Sid Roth's website is loaded with cutting-edge articles and teaching about the one new man. Log on to sidroth.org today.
We now return to It's Supernatural.
Hello, Sid Roth here, still trying to do an interview with Kathie Walters. You think it's so easy. You come here and do it. But tell me about this. I'm so fascinated with this angel of change that took residence in your house for 3.5 weeks. Tell me about it.
Okay. One Sunday night I was watching a movie. My friend was doing some ironing. And it's a good lesson here because while I was watching the movie, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a light. Well, hello, most people have seen a light. But I turned to see what the light was. So when I looked around, there was one of the biggest angels I ever saw in my life, right there in my living room. And he had a little, like a jug with a long spout, little jug of oil. And the next minute he was standing behind me and he poured this oil over my head, went over my head, my front, my arms. It really felt like a river. And the next minute I slid out of the sofa and I was sitting on the floor. So
I can picture that.
So my missionary friends who's ironing said, "What are you doing?" So I said, "Can't you see that angel?" So she said, "No, but I can smell oil." So I scooted over and I said, "Sit there." So she sat there, he poured the oil, she slid out the sofa onto the floor. Well, then she went down to my office and there were some people there working on the Bible codes. So she said, there's an angel, there's an angel. So they came running up. They took it in turns. They sat on the sofa. He poured the oil. They fell out of the sofa. Well, the word got around, I guess, my little town, and people were calling me for 3.5 weeks saying, can we come and sit on the sofa?
Okay, well, wait a second, Kathie. It's okay to slide off when the angel does this, but what's going on with these people?
Tell you, I'm going to explain that afterwards, okay?
Okay.
I will explain
You're going to force me to wait. All right.
Yeah, because I have to tell you the other bit first. So the angel came, whoever sat there, he poured this oil and they'd fall out of the sofa onto the floor. If you sat the other end, nothing happened because he stayed right there for 3.5 weeks and suddenly he left. Now, people said to me, what was that all about? And I said, well, I didn't do it, so I don't know. But I noticed that everyone I knew that came and sat on that sofa, the angel poured the oil, over the next few weeks, they received a major life direction changing word for their life that changed the course of their life or ministry. So that angel anointed them for change.
You know,
you have
Kathie,
to be anointed for change.
There's very little talk about angels. Some people are actually afraid of them. Some are worried that there could be angels that aren't from God. I personally love your teaching. I listen to your teaching on faith in angels, on your CD, and your booklet, Angels Watching Over You. What kind of feedback are you getting on people that sit in this seminar on angels? I mean, are they still observers, or are they participating in the supernatural?
The whole point is that I teach, the supernatural realm and the angels and the heavenly visitations. That's for everybody. That's supposed to be a normal part of our life. It's not just for me or you or a few special people. That's our inheritance. There's angels appointed to everyone. People do have religious concepts about angels, which God is getting rid of, and people have this fear, like you said, oh, maybe this angel's not from God. But you see, if an angel came in here today and wanted us to worship him, I think we know he wasn't from God.
Of course.
It doesn't take a great deal of discernment. So God's angels wouldn't let you worship them anyway, so it's not an issue, is it? So there's angels that come to minister to you personally, like it says in Hebrews. They sing to you, minister the word to you. And there's also angels appointed to our ministry. They minister with us.
You told me about someone was getting up to speak and you saw a change of one angel with another angel. I think tell me about that.
Okay, that was really interesting. And I was at Gwen Shaw conference and I saw the angel overlooking this meeting, Gwen Shaw's meeting.